February the 12th, Paulding County Commissioners Work Session. So we're very proud to have Sheriff Gullidge here and District Attorney Donovan here, along with Mayor Phil Yaw and the school boarders here. I'm missing somebody. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Glad to have you. Thanks for participating in your county government. Also, Brian, can you bring that list forward? And if you have any phones on, give you time to turn them on. It's always a pleasure to have Chaplain Meeks here. And I discovered a little bit more about Chaplain Meeks, who's the chaplain for the Sheriff's Office Department. He also is a full-time pastor in the Buchanan area. And he loves to deer hunt. He has a hobby, and he can show some of it off to you because he's got something he made on his waist. He likes to do leather craft hobbies. So, Joe, we don't know what other talents you have, but we appreciate you being here for our prayer invocation, and our pledge this morning.
Thank you for that, sir. Well, the leather started off when I evacuated a deer stand. It broke both my ankles and crushed my right foot. So we had to find something to do that wasn't quite as active. But I really appreciate y'all letting us come this morning. I was thinking about what to say, and when Paul was talking to the church at Colossae, he sent them this at the start of his letter, and I thought it was pretty good. It says, "For this cause we also, since the day we heard it, do not cease to pray for you and to desire that you might be filled with the knowledge of his will and all wisdom and spiritual understanding." And I know that y'all have a hard job. So let's pray. Father, we love you and we thank you so much for our county, Father, and the people that make it up, and how we've seen it grow in our lifetime, Father, but we've seen the problems that arise also. I pray, Father, that you would touch the commissioners, Father. I pray that you would give them this wisdom, Father, on the problems that we have and the different things of the day-to-day operation that most people don't even think about, Father. I pray, God, that you grant them this wisdom and understanding on how to deal with it. We pray for all of our public officials, our Department of Safety, Father, the deputies, the fire, everyone, Father, the marshals. I pray, God, that you build a huge hedge around them, Father. I pray, God, that you'd make it strong, Father. And I pray, God, that you'd touch our school systems, Father, with the things that they're dealing with the children, Father. And I pray, God, that you just bless it all. In Jesus' sweet name, amen. While we stand for the pledge, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. God bless you.
Thanks so much, Joy. Under the minutes of the January 24th, 2019 work session and also the January 24th board meeting minutes are available for review. Under announcements, under our Positively Paulding segment, we're very glad to let you see the start of an adaptive recreation field out at Burnt Hickory. I was there last week, and they didn't have the turf on it, but making a lot of progress. And after the video, I guess Michael or maybe his assistant Brett are going to tell us a little bit more about it because there's a new league that's coming this spring.
With Michael Justice, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, and Britt Trillo, Therapeutic Program Coordinator. They have some exciting news to share with us about something new coming to Burnt Hickory Park this spring. Michael, I know you must be excited about this new ball field. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey getting it here to Paulding County?
Absolutely. We're more than excited to bring this opportunity. It is the first synthetic turf field that will be putting in play in our park system. And what it's going to bring to us just adds another level when we can add the special needs population to it. We can accommodate that group and other groups as well. We're just excited for the opportunity to get it done in a couple of weeks and start using it. It's less maintenance cost, but the use that we'll get out of it will be, tenfold.
We're really excited about the new Trailblazer League. It'll comprise of different age groups in a non-competitive baseball atmosphere. So everyone plays, everyone hits, everyone runs, no outs, and we'll keep score just for fun to keep the traditional baseball element.
I think one of the things that we need to add to this is that this is a SPLOST project. So, it's been made available because of that vote, and because of the public's interest in parks and recreation programming and facilities. So without that, this wouldn't be happening. It gives us the opportunity to provide new things. This is an entirely new division for us with the therapeutic recreation. So excited to see what Britt can do. We're always looking for volunteers, we're looking for coaches, and we're looking for participants to help us get this thing kicked off right.
Fantastic. It's a birthday boy, and Brett wants to say anything else?
Good morning.
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 Thank you. No place I'd rather be on my birthday than from you guys. As we said in the video, we're very excited about this opportunity, and we appreciate you guys and the public for their support. While we were preparing for this, while we are still preparing, we've taken the opportunity to visit a number of different sites that have successful programs. We visited those sites and met with those staff members, and the way that we're going to start it is the way that they recommended that we start it. We got to start somewhere, so we'll start it and let it grow, and then hopefully it blossoms into one of the largest programs that we have. This is just not a participant sport. We need volunteers. We need buddies to come out there. We need coaches. If you have any interest at all, come out there and be a part of this program. That being said, I'd like to reintroduce to you Britt Grillo, who is our adaptive program specialist, and she can give you some particulars on the program itself.
So we'll have 3 different age groups, 5 to 12, 13 to 22, and 23 and older. And each participant, my idea is for them to have a buddy so that they get one-on-one interaction, as well as the buddies are going to provide like the safety element for them as well, and to keep them engaged and interactive with what's going on. And they'll also form relationships and make friends, which is important as well. It'll be really non-competitive. Everyone will score, everyone will be able to bat. They'll have the opportunity to play a variety of defensive positions with their buddies. And everyone will bat before rotating sides. We'll keep score just for fun, just so they see the scoreboard and it's that traditional element to baseball. And anything we can do to just make them have fun. I do need a lot of volunteers, a lot of hands are going to be needed to make this program successful. So any help is greatly
Two questions
appreciated.
for you all. First of all, someone who wishes to volunteer should contact.
Me.
Okay.
My contact information is, you can call me at Mount Tabor Park. My email is listed in the program guides as well.
And the other question, are there age requirements, or what are the age requirements for
volunteers?
volunteers?
We're not real strict on that right now. Just the nature of the program itself is a lot different than some of the other things we have. I do have a volunteer application just so that I get more information. If kids are really young, I would prefer that they participate with a parent as a volunteer. We'll probably reach out to a lot of high school teams and groups.
Sounds great. This field and that program's been a long time coming, and a lot of hands have been in that, so I'm excited about it. Thank you both for what you've done for us.
One last thing, if we can, I'm sorry, Brett. We are targeting a date of April 20th for the beginning of this program. I forgot what else I was going to add. Oh, to expand a little bit on the video that you saw, the carpet is scheduled for this week. So we're ready to put the carpet down, put the synthetic turf down. The fence work will follow as soon and probably within the next 2 weeks. And we should just be prettying the place up a little bit. So it'll be ready before we start getting the phone calls and the questions. Nobody's playing on this thing until April 20th when those kids get the opportunity. So it'll sit there for just a little bit, but they deserve that first, and then we'll go from there. Thank you for your time.
Sorry. We are registering now until March 29th. And I so far have 1 participant, so he's getting out there. So.
We'll get the word out.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Justice does a great great job with Parks and Rec, and he's got a lot of other things up his sleeve that are coming up that the board and the citizens can participate in. It's a study that's been done with a lot of feedback. But if you don't have any ideas, talk to one of your commissioners or call Mike himself. I would like to announce that if you get hungry today, Ron's hungry all the time.
I'm always hungry.
Between 11 and 2, we're trying something out for the employees primarily for their morale to not have to drive somewhere to eat. There's a gentleman who runs the Little Red Wagon, and he's going to be parked right outside of the building over here. He's got a very reasonable and delicious menu. So I might run over you trying to be first in line today, but I just wanted to make that announcement. Good opportunity. Also, the people over in the courthouse building. All right, so under invited guests, we've got Mr. Attorney Dick Donovan, who's going to just make some comments and I think invite us to do something. So, Dick, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for coming over.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. As I said in my last report to the people of Paulding County in the Dallas New Era, I want to come over here and invite our 3 new commissioners to come over and take the tour that is going to be called of the District Attorney's Office, the Paulding Judicial Circuit. I do that for 2 or 3 reasons. One is to reinforce the idea we are not a county department. We are a state agency. The law requires the circuit, the counties in the circuit, to provide amenities, extra employees, office space, telephones, and things like that. And that amounts to about 3/4 of my annual budget. My annual budget is about $2 million, and the county's portion of that is about $1.5 million. And I'd like the 3 new commissioners to come and see how we spend your money and exactly what we do with it. Commissioner Carmichael has come over and had the tour. Commissioner Davis has come over and had the tour. Frank Baker was there when we decided to have a tour. And I invite anybody else from the county that wants to come over. All you need to do is call me and tell me you want to come and look around. I'd like you to see how we use the space. I'd like you to meet the people in the office. I would like you to hear about what we do. Prosecution is not the only thing the district attorney's office does. I'd like you to get an opportunity again to see the people, talk to them. You can spend as much time as you like. The length of time sometimes depends on how many questions you ask. And the people will know you're coming, or you can surprise us and take a picture. But I always want to talk to the commissioners and any members of the public who want to come and look and see what the district attorney's office does. And one of the reasons I come over and make a public invitation is to let it be known that we're open. That door is always open for any of y'all to come in and see the office and talk to me, talk to anybody in the office. But more importantly, and I said this in the report to the people, one of your predecessors, in fact, all but one of your predecessors have done the tour, have come over and seen the office and talked with people, and I think that helps when your constituents say, well, what money is being spent and why on the DA's office since it's a state agency. You need to know those things. Well, one of your predecessors came over and spent about 45 minutes to an hour, talked to a lot of people in the office. I showed them the entire office, the parts that used to be the attorney's lounge, which is now our investigators' squad room. And we got to the front door when he was leaving, and he turned and looked at me and he said, I thought you had about 5 people over here. There are 44 people in the office this morning. If you count me, there's 45. I don't know what he thought 5 people were going to do with $2 million. That's $400,000 a piece. I've been told I'm high maintenance. I'm not that high maintenance. So I would like you all to come and see what we do, and it's an open invitation to all of the commissioners, for the ones that have been there, the ones that have never been there, and any member of the public that would like to come and see. And I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much, Mr. Donovan. Appreciate it. Councilman Jimmy Henson thought he could sneak in, but he didn't sneak in, and he's here. So we're glad to have Jimmy. Under bid awards, discuss action to award the contract to replace the network switches at the Watson Complex, Watson Government Complex. to the lowest bidder, PCS, in the amount of $290,619.13. Ms. Pollard's going to report.
Good morning. A week or so ago, we had a bid out, and we had 5 participants in this process to replace the network switches. This was a budgeted expense, a budgeted general fund expense, and we are recommending award to BCS, which was the low bidder in the amount of $290,619.13. And for technical, Will Lines is available for any additional questions beyond that. My knowledge is I want to turn the computer on and it comes on and it connects to what I need to outside.
Whatever, I know we pardon me if this is a little question. We picked these switches over some others because of the costs as well. Well, you went with this over Cisco or something else. What was the difference in the cost, between this and that?
Actually, there's about a half dozen players in the enterprise level spectrum, as you know.
Right.
We brought in each one of the vendors. We laid their equipment out in our network. We configured the CLIs. We looked at the interfaces. We looked at all the features and add-ons that came from each vendor natively. And Extreme came out above all the other ones. They were also one of, I can't say they were a lot lower than everybody else, but they were right competitive price. Cisco was the highest. We've been using Cisco for a number of years. Cisco's a great product. No complaints on them, but we are looking for something more than just CLI. We're looking at deep level packet inspection, and Extreme was one of the brands that did that.
How does this work with, I know once Cisco gets to a certain point, you purchase SmartNet contracts, they have the same thing?
They do have support for the products. What we're going to do is we're going to put one product on the shelf that we can get to an immediate need, and we're doing next day business shipment on replacement. So that should give us capabilities for efficient repairs and timely repairs, as well as get the hardware replaced so we can put back on the shelf as needed.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Number 2 is discuss action to award the public safety software replacement project purchase in the amount of $1,521,955 to Tyler Technologies. We have a representative from Tyler here, and Ms. Pollard and Mr. Mumford are going to team up to answer all our questions.
I'm only going to speak to the process. So we had 9 participants in this process. 2 of those 9 actually provided exactly what we were looking for. So we started with those 2. They went through the selection committee, went through an extensive interview process for these, and they are recommending award to the low bid Tyler Technologies in the amount of $1.5 million. And David Mumford's got more from those agencies that will be impacted by the law.
Good morning. So, just so you don't think this is a 911 project, the first thing I want to do is recognize all the people that were involved in this. This was a committee consisted of sheriff and cities, 911, marshal, animal control had some input, fire department, and IT kind of helped us pull all this together. So everybody that was on the committee is scattered about. If you guys would stand up to be recognized, or step forward to be recognized. This is how many people that we had that had input into this process. So it's not a, thank you, I appreciate it. We also have a representative from Tyler is hiding around the corner. It's not a process that was done by just one person. We had a committee that looked into this. What this does is it replaces and consolidates numerous disparate systems across public safety in the county. So right now, the Sheriff's Department has a couple of systems that they use for jail and records, and 911 has a CAD system and a mobile. They don't talk to each other. The fire department really doesn't have any, well, they have a record system that's a completely different product that they're looking to replace. The animal control doesn't really have anything that they use, and they have no mobile data computers. The cities have their disparate, and we all work together. So what we did with this system is we looked for a system that will bring all these agencies together and allow us to share data on a level that we've never seen in public safety before in this county. The 911 Center was looking at replacing our CAD system and mobile several years ago, and for various reasons that project got placed on hold. And when we started up the project again about 12 months ago, we realized with the new jail coming online that the Sheriff's Department was also looking for some software systems. So we got together with them. We're like, why don't we look at a system that brings us all together into one so that we can all share. And so what we did was we wrote an RFP for a public safety software replacement. And we included all these entities and built the system out or designed the system so that it would support the cities also, so that the cities can share the information with the counties. The size and the importance of this project is really hard to fathom until you look at it, but it replaces almost every public safety computer, every PC in public safety within the county. The cities is kind of they'll do their own hardware replacement, but the county is responsible for the servers and all of our computers. We managed to find a company that does a site licensing, so it costs us no more if the cities come on than it does if they don't. So we're paying for the same servers and the same network infrastructure without the cities, so we can bring the cities in at a very reasonable expense. I mean, it costs them it's very little for them to upgrade their system so that they can talk to the county system. Tyler Technologies, who is the low bid plus offered the most of all the companies that we reviewed, they have installations in several counties in Georgia and across the country, probably 20 or more in Georgia. So they're an established public safety software provider, and their system offered just about everything that we were looking for in a software solution. I've got a couple of slides that kind of give you an idea of what the benefits that we're going to see. So we're looking at completely integrated software that consolidates all these multiple systems that are out there now. It should turn out to be an improved response time for calls for service. And one of the reasons, an example is that it lets us do at 911 what's called proximity dispatching. So if we have a call for service, it will show us which units are closest to that call so we can dispatch those units. Right now we don't have that capability, but this system does include that. Responder safety across public safety, and that includes animal control. We'll bring animal control on board on this. Right now they really don't have radio contact or any means to put themselves out on call so that anybody knows where they are at any given time. They respond to calls when the public, calls those in, and they go out on their own. So this kind of brings them under that umbrella so that we will have an idea of where they are and what they're doing. Although the upfront cost for this is quite substantial, the increased efficiency and cost savings that we're going to see towards moving towards a more paperless environment, we think over the long run is going to reduce our maintenance costs, and it's certainly going to reduce our reliance on paper. Right now, we have to print out reports for the fire department and for the sheriff's department, and then with this new system, they'll be able to go in and run those reports and have them on their desktop without us having to print those physically. It's going to be a real-time and accurate information sharing. So when we enter something in the CAD, it goes out to the mobiles, and it is something that happens in real time. That information goes over to the record management service for the sheriff's department or fire or whoever the call is going to, or all of the entities involved. So everything happens in real time, and it's something that we don't have right now. Now we have to, if the fire department wants to get history on a call, they have to call us, or they carry a stack of books around with them that has pre-planned information in it. This system allows us to put that pre-planned information on the mobiles in the trucks. And they can go back and look at the history for a particular call, that anybody can look at a history for a call they're going out on, instead of having to call 911 and say, hey, can you check and see if we've been out there before? It's a redundant system, so right now, we have the system at 911, our servers are there. With this system, we have a primary location at 911, and we're going to have a backup location in IT server room. And if one of those, if the primary system drops off, then the backup system can be brought online, and hopefully that will help us from having any downtime. With the CAD system, if we do have downtime, this system is designed so that the PCs operate independently of the network, so we no longer have to do pen and paper. Right now, if we lose our CAD, which has crashed a couple of times in the past month, we go to pen and paper until our vendors can bring it back online. With this system, we continue to use those PCs, and when the system comes back up, the information is integrated back into the database. With moving to silent dispatch on the mobile computers across the county, we anticipate that it will reduce our level of radio traffic that we have on a very congested low frequency right now, so that we can silent dispatch non-priority calls. And that also allows the officers to message between each other in the vehicles and between the 911 center. The benefit of able to update the maps, we have a really good GIS section in Paulding, and they provide us with our map data weekly. Right now, in order for us to update our maps for public safety at the 911 center, we have to pay about $6,000 to do an update, so we can't update those weekly. This system makes it so that we can update those on our own with the data that's provided. It's completely seamless integration between CAD, mobile, law enforcement, and fire record management. And there's the information starts at CAD and it passes off to the RMS and the responders without very little intervention with the operators and the officers involved. And then, of course, one of the big benefits that we hope that we don't have to benefit from, but in the event that we do, we would have immediate mobile access to any critical multi-agency information during major incidents. It will be right there in front of the officers, right there in front of the firefighters or the dispatchers on their the PCs or their mobile computers. Right now, if we want to share information, we have to pick up the phone and call or email. And so this puts it right there in front of us. And some of the modules that we're going to be using is right there in front of you: record management, jail management, the mobile data system, and we're bringing fire on board. They don't have a mobile data system now. They will with this. Animal control doesn't, and they will. Case management for the law enforcement, property and evidence tracking, training records, the federal and state reporting requirements that the sheriff's department and the fire department have. This is a next generation CAD system for 911. It allows us to do proximity dispatch, offline functionality. It has a disaster operations mode, so we can actually program modes into this system that if we have a disaster, we can bring this particular mode up. And that, for instance, sometimes if we have a disaster, we'll split the county in half and we'll dispatch one half of the county on one radio frequency and one half of the other. And this allows us to build those disaster modes into CAD without having to do it manually. It also gives us enhanced reporting features that we don't have now, so that we can better track our response times and our call times. For the fire department, it ensures that they meet their federal compliance for fire reporting. They can have station activity logs, their inspections, where they go in and right now manually do fire inspections for buildings. It'll now be on a tablet. They can capture those signatures in the field. They can track hazardous materials throughout the county, pre-plans, hydrant inventories, patient care reporting. As I said before, the fire will now be moving to a mobile data system so we can silently dispatch fire trucks. That's a really quick summary of this system. It's a very, very comprehensive and a large project. One thing that the award today is half of the project. So this is the award for the software part. And you guys have the figures for what we anticipate the award for the hardware will be. We're going to do a bid package for that. We're hoping that comes in under what for the total project amount. Right now, we're estimating at $3,005,000. And the second half of that, of course, is all the hardware, the servers, and the computers that have to be replaced. And we're going to do that on a separate bid. But today is just for the software so that we can get started on the configuration. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to add or if you have any questions.
Does the software work on our current hardware?
The software will not work on our current hardware, so it requires new servers, and there's a handful of computers that it will work on, but for the most part, our computers have to be replaced. So they were due to, like, the computers at 911 should have been replaced 3 years ago. They were due for replacement, and we didn't move forward with the project then, so we've been making them work for the last 3 years. But for the most part, almost every computer, and certainly all the servers that we have to be replaced.
The maintenance fees, year 2 through 5 maintenance, is that, that's not part of this bid?
The first year's maintenance fees is included in this amount, but after that, we'll be billed yearly for maintenance after the first year. So once we accept the project, that first year maintenance fees start, and then after that, we'll be billed yearly. Right now, we're paying yearly for maintenance fees for all these disparate systems. And for instance, at 911, our annual maintenance fee for our CAD system and such runs in the area of about $60,000 to $70,000. So that's just for us. But the one thing that Tyler offers with their maintenance fee package is it's an evergreen license. So any updates, any new software that they come out with, as long as you have that maintenance agreement, the county and the cities benefit by getting that. There's no charge other than maybe trainers to come out and train us on how to use the software. So we believe if you look at everyone's maintenance fees together, that we're actually going to probably save money. We haven't figured that out completely, but we think we're going to actually save money on maintenance in the long run, at least break even. And another thing that, and this, if we want to add, let's say we add a mobile computer right now under our current system, we have to buy a license for about $3,000. We have a site license with Tyler, and if we have a computer that breaks in the middle of the night, we can add a computer, add a license, and bring that officer up online without having to go through a purchasing process to purchase a new license. So we do have a site license for this entire system.
Any other questions?
Thank you for that information.
Thank you, David. Mr. Walter, thank you for coming out today. Under reports from committees and departments, we're glad to have Eileen Colson from our Animal Control to give us an update on the trap, neuter, vaccinate, and release program, and any other updates you want to give us on.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Excuse me. To those of you who don't know me, my name is Eileen Colson. I'm the facility manager at Paulding County Animal Control. I've been there almost 12 years. In my 12 years, I've experienced highs and lows. Most of the lows have been because of the one thing that no one was a part of in my job, and that's euthanasia. The list has to be made every week, and that list consisted of animals that had to be euthanized. Most of the animals on this list were feral cats. Why? Because there is no room in our facility to house these cats and because they're not adoptable. So I'm going to fast forward to May 2018. Because of the efforts of several people and Best Friends Animal Society, a proposal was presented to the Paulding County Board of Commissioners to adopt a TNVR, Trap, Neuter, Vaccinate, Release program in this county. These feral cats are now known as community cats. This means that they have no owner and they live in that area. This program is right now being funded by donations from the public and other organizations. We are also currently working on some available grants. Westwood displayed here, as you see on the screen, has a program that's called Pay It Forward. So any donation that's made to them in our name is actually doubled dollar for dollar. And this goes to our TNR program. This program is still very new to us, and we are continuously learning on how to make it better. I am very excited to announce that over 320 community cats have been saved because of this program. And better yet, we are noticing a decrease in our cat intake. The list that I talked about earlier no longer exists. Because of this, I don't have to make that list for euthanasia every week. Some of these cats could not be released back to the original location because of some extenuating factors. So we're always looking for barns or businesses that can use these cats fully vetted to help with the rodent population. Another reason our euthanasia rates are low is because of our wonderful volunteers. I don't have enough time to name each one of them, but they know who they are, and I want them to know how much we truly appreciate them. They take photographs and videos and just simply come in and spend time with the animals. A few weeks ago, a group of volunteers came in on a Saturday and had a photo shoot. There we go. So thank you, volunteers. And if anyone would like more information on becoming a volunteer, please contact us. And just showing some photo shoot photos there. If anybody has any questions, anything on the TMBR program? Most of you still need a home, so.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
I'll focus while you mentioned intake, decrease in intake on the cats, and that was one of the things that we had talked about. We expected to be a benefit of the CMBR program when we launched it last year.
Yes, sir.
Do you have, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have a ballpark of what the decrease is?
I don't have, yeah. Sorry. Royce, please sign out and everything. I don't, I can get those stats for you and email you. It's not been a year yet, and actually since we really started doing this, but each of you get our monthly report and you see our rates are very low. You see one you want? Oh, there, I can't take credit, I'm sorry. Patience. Any other questions? I would like to invite the board of commissioners to come out and to our facility also, like get down and sit and come out and meet us and see what we're doing.
I know he asked further about the age of the volunteer. What's the age of the volunteer up there?
Well, it has to be 18, over 18, but if you're with a parent, we do accept them with their parent, and we get a lot of those. We also get a lot of the data clubs and things like that that just need a couple hours, so they come in with the parents' permission. So it's 18, but again, we take those with their parents with them. They come in all the time and love it.
My daughter, she's out there once or twice a week, so you probably, it's Cali.
Okay.
Probably recognize her, you saw her there.
She reports back good stuff, right?
Huh?
She reports back good stuff.
She loves it.
Okay.
But she's 17.
She's with the school program, I think. Yeah.
If she spent too much time out there, I'd have to build a barn just for that. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
And we're very glad to have Kelly Comstock with us to give us an update on the Richland Creek Reservoir. Always good to have you, Kelly.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to give you an update on the Richland Creek Water Supply Program. Because we have a couple of new commissioners since my previous update, I thought I'd give just a little bit of an overview of the prime components of the program. These make up the entire Richland Creek Water Supply Program that's going to provide Paulding County with your own independent water supply source. It's a series of different projects. The first one is a river intake and pump station that's actually located in Bartow County on the Etowah River. The second is a 48-inch raw water pipeline that brings the water from the river to the new reservoir. There's a new dam and a 300-acre reservoir. And from that dam and reservoir, we pump through a new pump station into a water treatment plant where water is treated, and then it's conveyed via a series of pipelines down actually here to the Watson complex where it connects to the existing distribution system. There are a variety of team members involved with the project. I'm with Brown and Caldwell, and we're helping the county in implementing this project as a program manager, providing some augmentation to your current staff to help bring all these projects to fruition. Arcadis is the primary designer of the dam, water treatment plant, and pump stations. Atkins is the designer of the finished water pipeline project. PC Construction has a construction manager at risk contract for the water treatment plant and pump stations. Garney Construction and Croy Engineering did a design build for the raw water pipeline, and then Garney was the low bidder on the 2 finished water pipeline projects. And then Brad Cole Construction is the reservoir contractor. So there's a host of different individual companies working on the program. I'm going to touch briefly on the current status and recent work at each one of these different locations. The Etowah River Intake and Pump Station is a 47 million gallon a day pump station that pulls water from the river. It includes a wet well that's about 40 feet below grade, where water flows by gravity from the river through screens into that wet well, and then water is pumped out through pumps. It's supported because of very poor geological conditions there. It's supported on concrete piles that actually go 140 feet below grade and tied to the bedrock below. And it has a separate electrical building that's off the riverbank. And it'll pump through the 48-inch raw water pipeline to the reservoir. Since the last update I gave in September, we've had an extraordinary amount of rain. And that amount of water, coupled with an operational change that the Corps has implemented at Allatoona Dam, has created a major impact to the schedule to this project. Here you can see this picture here. You can see that's the wet well and the operational level of the river when they had sort of made their modification to operate at a higher power release. So they've been producing higher releases through Allatoona Dam now that they've brought their generator system back online, and it's resulted in a normal operating stage of about 14 feet, which has caused a major impact to us. So the overall impact from April to October was somewhat of a slowed impact because it was somewhat manageable. It was very cyclical as when they did these major power releases. But since that time, since October, we've essentially had very little work that's been able to take place, both because of the rainfall, but then even when we have sunny days, they're doing these massive releases. We've had conversations with the Corps, and they've taken it up and down through their chain of command. And because of specific contract requirements they have with SEPA, which is the Southeast Power Administration, they have to run these releases as they are running them right now. The challenge is that we have a very wet spring in front of us, so we've got to do something different because we're sort of at a standstill right now. I looked at my phone coming in, and 8 of the next 10 days it's forecast for rain. So we have developed a plan to move forward, to be able to keep moving, and that's an agenda item we'll be presenting later on in the presentation. But to sort of give you an understanding of what we're dealing with, the blue line is the gauge height, or basically the river height at a nearby stream gauge. When the contractor came in to do their work, they established a temporary cofferdam at a gauge elevation of about 11 feet. That was consistent with what was a normal high operating level with the river going back to 2010. In 2014, you may not know it, but they actually had a fire at their power generation station, and so it was shut down for a period of about 4 years. In 2018, they began generating power again, and then by April, they were very frequently coming up above the 12-foot mark. And then since October, you can see they've really been consistently at 12 to 14 feet. And it's really unprecedented for how they've operated previously, but it has to do with the new power generation system. When they're generating 80 megawatts, they need a certain amount of flow that passes through, but it's required this situation. The good news is once we're above that elevation, this will never impact the county in the future. It's really an issue during construction that we need to address. So this is an aerial at the river intake construction when the water level's under 10 feet. And you can see the center shaft there. That's where construction was brought down to be able to get that 40-foot depth and then put in place that wet well. And that was done through October, but then after that point, we really haven't been able to get back in there and finish the amount of work that's needed to be able to bring it up. So this is sort of the situation that you see when they're doing a 14-foot release. Update on the water treatment plant. Progress there has been very good. This is essentially at the reservoir site. It's an 18 million gallon a day water treatment plant that the county will be able to expand to 36. It's a state-of-the-art treatment process. It includes an admin building, control room, and laboratory building, all those functions within this facility. 6 million gallons of finished water storage, and then pumping from here that'll pump all the way down to the connection here at the Watson complex. Here's an aerial of the water treatment plant. You can see the various buildings really taking shape. And over this last several months, we've really finished up work at the admin building. We've begun paving at the plant, begun light pole installation and site lighting. We've continued installation of mechanical equipment and doing electrical and control connections. Installed a lot of the finishes, including windows and glass block around the various buildings. Continued lab casework installation in the building, and began painting and chemical resistant coating applications. So the weather has not had as negative effect on that component. The reservoir intake and pump station is at the reservoir. That's the pump station that brings water up into the plant. It's also designed for 18 million gallons a day and expandable in the future. It's got functionality to be able to pull from various levels within the reservoir, and it's about a mile away from the water treatment plant on one of the fingers associated with the lake. It has an access bridge to allow county personnel to get out and do maintenance on the equipment, and has a separate electrical and control building. And here you can see that structure really taking shape. There are intake gates on the back side of the structure at the various levels of the reservoir, and you can see the bridge going across to it and the electrical building on the main shore. Over this period, we've completed installation of the roofing system, installed all the piping and valves. The pumps were tested at the factory and delivered to the site. They have a shaft that's about 75 feet deep. So they actually come in sections and get assembled in sections and drop down into the wet well. And the contractor did complete the electrical duct bank that goes about a mile from the water treatment plant to power the electrical room and this facility. So once again, making good progress in this area. The dam is an earthen dam with a grout curtain and concrete slurry wall, two different components in the center of that. It's about 800 feet wide and 4,000 feet long and about 120 feet tall. It'll require about 2.5 million cubic yards of soil. So just to give you perspective, a typical dump truck will handle about 10 cubic yards of soil. So you're talking about 250,000 dump truck loads full of soil. It has an outlet structure to maintain minimum flows in Richland Creek. And ultimately, the reservoir will be about 300 acres and hold 3.6 billion gallons of water for the county. This is a picture of construction on one of our sunny days. You can see the embankment really taking shape. And you can see the outlet structure to the side. The contractor was able to complete the slurry wall installation in the October timeframe. Rain has slowed production in terms of the earth placement. That's all they really have left to do is continue the embankment up, but they have to maintain very specific moisture conditions as they place it. So if we get a rain on a particular day, it may take 2 days of the material drying out before they can really continue work on it. To date, they've placed about 1.6 million cubic yards of the 2.5 million cubic yards of soil they have to place, so that gives us about 9,000. They're able to place anywhere between 9,000 and 12,000 cubic yards a day, so you're looking at about 90 days or so of decent weather, and we should be able to top this thing out. A little bit of update on the finished water pipeline. There are two different projects. One phase that goes from the water treatment plant down 61, parallel to 61 to Walraven Place. And then a second phase that takes off of Walraven Place and comes all the way back behind the Watson complex here and ties in on Highway 278. And there will be a booster station here at the Watson complex to increase the pressure up. For the phase one project, they've completed 22 of 23 bores at road and stream crossings, and they're finalizing their last one this week. They've continued pipeline installation. They've got about 45,000 of 56,000 linear feet installed. and they've begun clearing on the Phase 2 pipeline. So we anticipate that they should be done by the end of March with all the construction along 61. I know that's a question a lot of people have. We appreciate the patience of the community, and they are buttoning things up along 61 and finally getting that out of the way, so it won't be in front of it. And so just in terms of overall project construction schedule, the raw water pipeline, as I mentioned, is complete. We're projecting the water treatment plant to be complete in May, although the reservoir won't be full at that point. It will sit ready to begin production once we get water to the reservoir. The dam, we're anticipating it will hopefully top out by June if we get a consistent stay of decent weather. Right now, the critical path is the Edward River Pump Station, where we're projecting that its completion with September if we can move forward with the plan that we've got in place. Finished water pipeline would be in the April timeframe for Phase 1 and September timeframe for Phase 2. So as we're projecting right now, we're still planning to have everything online by the end of the year as originally intended. And so with that, that's a sort of brief update of where we are. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
When's it going to be dry enough to do some more tours?
We're actually planning, in the fall, we had a field day where we invited the public out. We had about 100 people come out. It was a great way to do it. So we're planning on doing that again. We're just waiting for the weather to get a little drier and a little bit warmer. We're probably going to look to do that in the April timeframe. And then we'll announce it to the public ahead of time so that they can sign up and take part.
And just a question, as far as like 2009, I think we had floods. What kind of capacity is that? 34.5 as far as inches of rain?
Yeah.
Or added, happening?
Sure, very good question. So this is a pump storage reservoir. We have a very small drainage basin. It's only about 2.5 square miles. So to fill the reservoir, we're having to pump from the river. So what that means is we get very little recharge with natural rainfall. That being said, we have run scenarios that are sort of worst case scenarios, that if the county turned all their pumps on and forgot to turn them off, and they were pumping the full capacity of the pump station into the reservoir, and we had a 18-inch rain event, which parallels those 500-year events that all occurred at the same time, we still, between the normal operating level would be considered the full point, and the top of the dam, we can contain that entire volume. So we've got sufficient volume within that area, and that would assume that the outflow structure had something clog it up as well. So you would have everything that could ever go wrong. We still contain that massive flood without ever having anything go out the backside. So that was thought through. We revisited that a couple years ago with all the flooding that was occurring up in South Carolina, and they had some dam breaches and stuff. But because of the fact of how this is going to operate in a small drainage basin, we don't face any of those type of challenges. Other questions? Once again, thank you for the opportunity to give you an update.
Thank you, Kelly, so much for coming. We have no one has signed up to participate on agenda items under the consent agenda. Number just one, adopt the revised job classification for library services coordinator. Would anybody like to move that consent agenda item into regular business? Under old business, we have none. New business number one, discuss action to adopt resolution 19-04, creating the Office of Economic Development and Business Opportunity as a department of Paulding County government, creating the position of its director and creating the position of tourism project manager. And our county administrator, Frank Baker, working with the commissioners, has got a report for him.
Sure, thank you, board. I'm pleased to present this to you this morning. The board had asked, along with the chairman, to get some input from staff. So we formed a committee, a committee of four of us that took a look at this scenario. The scenario is, if the board decided to create an internal department, how best could we go about evaluating that and looking at the best methods, A little tongue-tied this morning. Actually, the Mr. Chairman, the flowers. I was highly allergic to stargazers. So Ms. Womack had to remove them from me. I was having trouble over here this morning, so I'm sorry. No. So anyway, they were very nice, but so I'm in recovery this morning, trying to recover from that. But we took a look at what the best methodology would be if the board decided to create an internal department. Those who served with me on the committee were our finance director, Ms. Pollard, our HR director, Mr. Acker, and Ms. Lipman from the community development department. So we got together, met on several occasions, had some individual conversations back and forth, ended up with a couple of recommendations as to how y'all might proceed if you decided to do this. These are the areas that we took a look at. First was funding. How are we going to propose that you fund this? So we're very deep into the budget cycle for this year, and that runs to the end of June. So Ms. Pollard has suggested that due to some increased revenues that we actually learned about last meeting, we were able to actually propose that you can fund this through the end of this budget year. So that was the first hurdle that we had to overcome. The second hurdle that we looked at was position recommendations. We are basing that on a couple of factors. One is a director's position, of course, and the second is we're recommending a tourism project manager. And the reason for that is that there was a study done almost a year ago by folks in the community, stakeholders that we have, other government agencies, and there was a discussion on economic development. And the finding of that study that we did back then was that we believe tourism was an economic player. That tourism is an economic player for us going forward. That was also solidified back in the fall when we had state tourism folks come in, and they did a research project and came back and said, absolutely, tourism is something that is an economic player for us. So with that, we are recommending the position of director and also this tourism position. The third thing we look at is the organizational structure of the department. Our recommendation is for this to be a department like all the other departments that we have. It will report through the organization that we have established. Part of it is looking at the position titles themselves. They are positions that we have suggested job descriptions for. What is important about that is that we utilize the same company that helped us with our job reclassification and our salary study a few years ago. So those descriptions that we've come up with are very consistent with what we have now with all of our departments. And those are attached to the resolution, I believe, that we're going forward with. We also looked at a proposed timetable of when we could make this happen if the board was so inclined to create a department. And we feel like we can probably get everything functioning for you by hopefully the 1st of April. And so that would give us a few more months in this fiscal year to go. So those were the areas, the 4 areas that we took a look at. This would be a department that would be reporting through the county administration office. That's the recommendation, and then from there would, of course, be reporting to the board. It would be a department head that's appointed by the board of commissioners, nomination from the chairman and confirmation by vote of the board of commissioners. The other position we talked about, we are suggesting to be a civil service position that's appointed by the director, whoever the director of that agency would be. So that's basically in a nutshell what staff has put together as far as recommendation if you go forward with a internal economic development office. Now, the final thing I wanted to say is, what are we suggesting that it be called? And so it is suggested we call it the Office of Economic Development and Business Opportunity. I know that's a little long, but it encompasses several things. And it lets people know that we are very adamant and very interested in providing not only economic development, but also businesses that we have now that are local, that want to expand. So we were looking at the whole gamut there. And so we wanted to be a little bit different in our approach, and that's why we have a little bit different title for it. So again, it's the Office of Economic Development and Business Opportunity. So with that, I'll be happy to take any questions that y'all might have. And of course, two of our committee members are here. Mr. Acker is not available today, but both Ms. Pollard and Ms. Livin are here. If y'all have any questions.
I'll ask you a couple questions, Frank. The grades that, excuse me, the grades that are listed here, Exhibit 3, as far as for those two positions, we're confident that range is going to keep us from getting any issues of equity.
That's a great question, Commissioner Davis, to ask. And the basis for those grades are exactly that. The reason why they were recommended not only by Mr. Acker, but by the company that did our salary survey a few years ago is that it would be consistent with all the other salary grades that we have throughout our county. So we were concerned about an equity situation. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
And then the hiring process for this would be identical. I'll state it, make sure I got it right. But the hiring process would be identical to the same process if we had any other department head vacancy. We would post for the job, take applications. HR would handle that and then pass on to, I guess, the board or a committee of the board to do interviews and that sort of thing. It's the same process for the other.
Yes, sir. Absolutely the same process. Again, it's very consistent with what we do with every single department that we have. And that even includes the second position that I mentioned, which is the tourism position. And that would be posted as per our county policy, interviews per county policy, and everything that we normally do with that position also would be the same.
So the plan would be to hire a director and then have the director be part of the hiring process for the other position?
That is our recommendation.
And then the only other question I have is, I know we talked about how it fits in the org chart. I didn't see an org chart. Was there one that I should have seen, or did I overlook it, or has it not been updated?
There was an update on the org chart, and I believe may have been in the backup. It was the last thing that we had. It was a little difficult for us to get that completed, but it would flow through county administration as opposed
to
to
the county administrator, just like the other positions that report to your position.
Yes, sir. That's our recommendation.
Okay. That's all the questions I have right now. Thank you. And thank you to the others, Jan and Tabitha, Brian, wherever you are. Thank you all for doing that.
Well, I'd like to add to that thanks to the committee, the task force that brought this together. And we go all the way back to November of 2016 or 2017 when we started as a staff of 12 members, all day facilitated by the Carl Vinson Institute to go back where we've come from, where we were, and to look ahead. And then we were able to get, and that was 12 people. We were able to get 30-something people together with business leaders, educational leaders, more of our staff on March 22nd of last year, so we are coming up on about a year. And the takeaway from that was use what you've got. Paulding County, a beautiful county. You've got a lot available. You've got a lot of resources, and that's where we all had takeaways from that meeting. Again, the citizens, that were business people, and others. So capitalize on tourism. And then as we've gone through an election cycle and the candidates all discussed economic development, we all recognize in Paulding County that our little 12% of our tax base, it's less than 12% in the last year as far as revenue in order to provide services and other opportunities for the county, like Parks and Rec we talked about earlier, and all the other things. And and you go, I've got in my office a target, 12% is all Paulding County has that's commercial and light industry. To our west, Polk County has 27%. And you all in the room immediately know that we're 12% commercial instrument, we're 88% from residential homeowners and property taxes. So we're anemic. So we know that our target is to improve that. So all that plays into why all of us as board members have discussed to regroup and to see if, since the board is willing to fund, to provide a lot of the financing for this, that we get more accountability, more reporting, just more interplay with what needs to happen around Paulding County. I would mention that other counties like Douglas and Cobb and Bartow, they're up 38% or so. So we got to keep our mind on the, or keep our eyes on the bullseye, and we need to keep all these things in mind, and that's one of the reasons that we're trying to come up with a different look at economic development. We all want it, we all need it, and it goes out to all the citizens because it could lower the property tax if we can be more successful. Very much want to work with the cities. I've conversations with Mr. Henson and the mayor and Mayor Phil, and with the IBA, each of the IBA members. I'm one of those by virtue of this position. So there's been a lot of meetings, a lot of time spent around the table to collaborate on how we can be successful. So I don't want anybody in this audience or that watches on TV to think that we just jumped into this with no thought or no collaboration and coordination. So, y'all add anything?
I just want to thank all of them that worked on it also. It's much needed thing for this county, and a small business owner, kind of hands-on guy, and that's one reason I like sitting in the house. Keep an eye on it close. We're going to fund it, we're going to control it a little bit better, so that's one thing you want to work on. This county's got to move forward. 12% or 88% doesn't do for one thing, is what this county's going to suffer. The homeowners are, if we don't do something to get it turned around. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I want to thank Mr. Phillips for helping out with the resolution. It's very comprehensive, and it took some time to put together. I appreciate all your help with it and working with the committee on it.
All right, we'll move on to new business number 2, which is discuss action to appoint Jody Palmer to fill the unexpired term of Susan Israel on the library board with term ending June the 30th, 2020. And also includes extending the term of Pat Rakestraw on the library board to June 30th, 2019. Mr. Justice.
Thank you. As you guys are aware, most of your appointments run the calendar year from January to December. The West Georgia Regional Library System that we are aligned with, their board appointments would come from these local boards. It's the fiscal year, it's July to June. We have some terms that expire there. I think there's one that expires next week. So what we're trying to do is attempt to align more closely with West Georgia Regional because of their board appointment schedule. Jody Palmer, Mr. Palmer would be filling an unexpired term of Ms. Israel, which is one of those that expires at the end of June 2020, I believe. And Ms. Rakestraw's term actually, I think, is the one that expires next week. So in an effort to align, not have anybody in the short term, and we're asking that her term be extended until the end of June of this year. Just a little explanation because it's a little bit different. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Everybody good? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
New business number 3 is discuss action to adopt ordinance 19-01, amending resolution number 97-21, which created Board of Tax Assessors. to clarify the number of board members, to ensure each commission district has representation on the Board of Tax Assessors, and to ensure adequate time for the required training of the appointee. Mr. Stokes, ma'am.
Yes, sir, this has come up from time to time over the last several years for our Board of Assessors. Georgia law requires our Board of Assessors to, the first meeting of each year, they appoint their officers. Typically, commissioners are waiting till the end of the year to make the board's appointments. And that kind of puts us in a little bind as far as getting up to speed, up to education requirements, things of that nature. So our board has wanted to know what it would take to move that appointment up and leave the terms, the January 1 through the 12/31 dates alone. In conversations with that, the current resolution quotes the law, which is no more than 3 members, no more than 5, or no less than 3, no more than 5 members. The board is asking that the commissioners consider making it a permanent 5-member board. Also, in the current resolution, it's not stated specifically that each jurisdiction or each post commissioner have their own representation on the board. So the board is asking that each member of the commission district be specified that they have their own recommendation for the Board of Assessors. That would give each of you, ladies and gentlemen, equal representation on the board. It, however, would not require that person, that appointment, to be in your district. It's my understanding that there may be a problem with finding somebody in your specific district, which may be a good appointment for the board at some point in time. Our Board of Assessors has recommended this recommendation to you, and we're asking for your approval. It's listed as an ordinance, and this would amend the resolution that was adopted, I believe, in 1997. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
One question, maybe for you, maybe for Jason. The residency on the district.
Right.
I get what you're saying, and I've had those struggles finding people to put on boards that are within the post, so I understand that. There is still a requirement for residency in the county, correct?
Absolutely, that's Georgia law. Georgia law requires that each one of the Board of Assessors be a resident of Paulding County within 6 months of taking office. Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, can I interrupt you before you go to the next new business item? I did have a question for council on new business item number 2. Could we revisit that just for a minute?
Certainly. Going back to new business number 2, Jody Palmer, what you got?
The question, Jason, I have for you was extending the term if someone is appointed. Is that legally okay to say we're going to change the end date of that term? Is that defined anywhere? I just want to make sure that we made sure that didn't get overlooked.
I believe that there won't be any sort of prohibition about extending the term. And although I've not seen the actual language for these particular appointments, oftentimes with appointments, you have terms that may expire, but then there's additional language in there that says, and this person shall continue to serve until their successor is duly appointed. And I think that this is more of a housekeeping one. I don't have a legal problem with extending the term.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
We move to new business number 4, which is discuss action to approve change order number 5 for the construction manager at Risk Services for the Richland Creek Reservoir Water Treatment Plant, the Etowah River Pump Station and the Reserve Pump Station project for $1,763,951. And Ms. Ashmore and Mr. Comstock's available also.
Just to take you back to Kelly's update, this is associated with the flooding and I'm here frequently talking about drought, and it seems odd, now we're talking about flooding. We're in that excess mode, so this is associated with the flooding that's occurring, the delays, and the intent is to get construction moving so that our operational, sort of getting operational with the entire program moves forward as quickly as possible.
So the change order itself has three different elements that I'm going to touch on briefly. The first is an actual fix to allow work to continue, even with elevated river conditions. The second is the impact of the schedule and extended overheads to the contractor and their sub-consultants that occurred, and then the deep foundation construction impact associated with the flooding as well. And as I mentioned before, this is the condition that we're dealing with right now. Contractor and engineer have come up with an approach where they will be able to, even under flooded conditions, come in, create an earthen armored coffer cell using a series of large sandbags with a concrete cutoff wall in between the rows of bags, and then armoring the entire thing with rock. It would become part of the final installation, so some of that backfill that was planned then would be credited back, and it will allow the contractor to continue work without the impact of river level. As I said, this is all an issue right now just temporarily during construction. The actual operating level associated with the pump station is a good 10 feet above this 14-foot level. But the need is to move forward to do this implementation. We were working with the Corps, trying to look at a window where we could do something different. We've been looking at the forecast, and it's just the point where we've got to do something different in order to move forward. The second item is the extended overhead that this issue has caused for the CMAR contractor and their sub-consultant, their prime sub-consultant, which is their electrical sub. The current CMAR contract included a 30-month construction duration for the entire duration of the water treatment plant and pump stations, and that ends the end of February. The river intake and pump station is on the critical path, obviously, because it's the furthest behind. And as we've looked at this issue, it is compensable to them under their contract, as it's not directly a rain issue. It's more than that. It's a water management issue. It's the fact that the Corps is doing these releases. So they would provide a non-compensable extension associated with rain days. But the situation is we get one rain day, and then the Corps has 4 days worth of releases. So it's more than that. As we look into their contract issue, it is a compensable item. And so we're being conservative at this point and planning on an additional 9 months to get this done. Our intent is to get it done as quickly as possible, get it done by September, but this would allow it to go through December. It's a CMAR contract, so the county retains this so that if they are able to get done quicker, which is in everybody's best interest, and then the county wouldn't spend all of this. So this is sort of a not-to-exceed number. And it includes the overhead costs for PTC construction, as well as their electrical subcontractors, Cogburn. The electrical sub has been able to work in the electrical building, which is, you can actually see this was, say, I think September, and this is where we're at now. So you can see that electrical building has taken shape. They were able to continue moving, but they are going to have to continue with the electrical installation at the pump station itself, which is a pretty major facility. And then the third component is what this impact had on the pile installation in the April to October timeframe. As I mentioned, we were having very cyclic flooding. They were able to continue work. The initial plan was that they would keep that coffer cell dry, and they would lower the pile installation equipment to the bottom of the coffer cell and install piles in a dry condition. With the very frequent cyclic flooding, had to make a modification to allow them to install in the wet, and it required them to create that template. You can see that platform that they moved on top of the pile locations, set their pile driver above, and drive down through that 40-foot water, and then 140 foot deeper into the earth to be able to do that. So this cost is for the work associated with that elevated pipeline or platform, the pumping that was required in between to basically change the approach for the pile installation. Now, if you total all three of those together, it's a little over $2 million. We do have some items that are unused funds in different packages in different areas within the current contract, including, as I mentioned, the fact that by installing this, there was some credit associated with the earthworks. You can see that's $150,000 savings. So there's about $300 worth of savings that we're able to apply to this, which brings the total to over the 1.763. County looking for an opportunity to fund this, had discussions with GFA, and they agreed through the water supply program, which is where the county's getting a good portion of funds for the reservoir, to modify one of the current loans associated with that, and that's the next agenda item that we've got for them. So that is the recommendation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Kelly, I had one question. This came up, general interest. I was surprised when I first learned that the reservoir would be furnished with water from a river. Is that a typical thing across the nation?
So it is a pump storage reservoir. In the east, it's not as typical. It's done a lot in the west, obviously, where you have a lot of more water shortage issues. And it's somewhat unique here in Georgia. The nearest one, the closest one, is the Hickory Log Creek Reservoir that Cobb County Marietta Water Authority has. It's a similar situation. They pump up to the reservoir. The difference is they release back into the river, and then they pull out of Lake Allatoona. So it's a way for them to reserve some capacity using that structure. It's not very common, but it's innovative because you were able to develop a water supply source using those peak flows that are getting passed by that aren't allocated. If you wanted to go to the Etowah River and say we're going to pull out constantly, 18 million gallons a day, you would never get that. I mean, through the Tri-State Water Wars and all the lawsuits that are going on. But you've got a permit that allows you to pump just during those peak conditions, and everybody's okay with that. So it's an innovative way that you were able to come up with your water supply source. I think it'll probably be used more, especially in these contentious areas, because base flow in the Etowah River is about 290 CFS. When they do a 80 megawatt power generation, it goes to 9,000 CFS, and all of that is unallocated water that's available for this type of application.
Thank you. The other question is, when will the coffer dam be completed?
So we anticipate about 6 weeks to get it all done and get that level up. But they can move straight through, so that would be something that they would start immediately and get it done without any type of weather impact, because they're able to do it under all conditions.
And I thought we were going to be 2 or 3 months behind on the field date, but what you said in your previous report, we would still be on schedule.
So our plan is, so the September time frame, provided construction goes well with everything else associated with the pump station. And there's a very specific sequence in terms of filling the reservoir. Ultimately, it'll take close to a year to fill the entire thing, but we only really need to get to a certain level to be able to start bringing it into the water treatment plant, and it'll be dependent on the water quality. So it'll be a bit of sort of wait and see. Once the water quality gets to a level that's stabilized, we'll be able to bring in the pump, or bring on the pump station at the reservoir, and actually start the water treatment plant process and start sending water to the system.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
New business number 5 is discuss action to modify the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority loan project number WS15L01WR to increase the loan amount to $1,800,000. This would be through the adoption of Resolution 19-03. Ms. Pollard.
So in talking about the additional expense that's come up, I think Lori and Kelly and maybe a couple of you went to and met with Mayor Austin, which is on the GFA board, and they did have some additional funds available in their water supply program. So they have agreed to tack this on to the last loan that is for the same purpose of the raw water pipeline. So this takes the original loan in the amount of $8,206,250 and adds the 1.8 to it for $10,006,250. They have agreed to retain the same terms. So this is a 0% loan until the completion of the project for October of 2021. And then the terms are at 2.03% interest for 30 years.
Any questions? Thank you. Final new business item is number 6, discuss action to approve the sub-award agreement amendment with the Nature Conservancy in the amount of $100,000 for a grand total of $250,000 of the supplemental funding from the Nature Conservancy is good for the construction cost to replace the existing box culvert with a freestanding bridge on the Raccoon Creek Road over Raccoon Creek. Mr. Jones.
Morning. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. Good news, I'm not requesting any funds today. But, as most of you know, we have an ongoing project to build a new freestanding bridge on Raccoon Creek Road over Raccoon Creek. The Nature Conservancy, which is a charitable nonprofit environmental organization with a stated goal of to conserve the lands and waters on which all life depends, had previously awarded the county $150,000 towards the construction of that bridge. The Nature Conservancy has agreed, based on the final bid estimate and construction bid on this project, provide an additional $100,000 in funds. So we're just asking to sign an amended agreement with the Nature Conservancy for this additional $100,000, a grand total of $250,000. Right now, our current construction project status is about half the structures removed. We're working on removing an abutment right now. So things are in progress, and everything's going okay. And may be able to answer any questions.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
That's the conclusion of our regular business. We normally look toward people who want to speak on non-agenda items and bring them forward, but we have no one who's requested to speak on non-agenda items. So I'll entertain a motion that we go into the executive session for land acquisition and pending potential litigation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Commissioner Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Caker, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Return to executive session. Well, I'll call the Paulding County Board of Commissioners work session back to order. And there was a healthy discussion during the meeting, and we have something to add to the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion, Dave, that we add to the consent agenda for our 2 p.m. meeting authorization for the county to acquire the Mary White parcel for the price of $140,000 for purposes of the Mount Tabor Fry Road intersection improvement project.
Okay, thank you very much. Motion, put that on the 2 o'clock regular session. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Caker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carries 4-0. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move we adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Stover. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.